Yeah, all things aside, in the end of the day, I think there's still definitely a gap in terms of level between me and Coco and other players. Of course, tomorrow I think it's great for me to learn. Obviously, facing a player like Coco is something people like would.
Nobody saw this coming. Nobody. Because when a professional athlete walks off the court after a loss, the last thing you expect her to do is grab the microphone and light the entire tennis world on fire. But that is exactly what Alex Eala did. And what came out of her mouth was the kind of statement that stops conversations mid-sentence, the kind of statement that gets replayed in locker rooms, debated on podcasts, and argued about in comment sections for weeks. She did not whisper it. She did not hint at it. She looked straight into the cameras and she said it out loud for the whole world to hear. Coco Gauff is better than Aryna Sabalenka, the current world #1, the reigning queen of Grand Slam tennis. And according to Alex Eala, it is not even close. Let that sink in for a second, because this is not some anonymous opinion floating around on social media. This is not a hot take from a retired commentator with nothing to lose. This is a professional athlete who has shared the court with the best players on the planet. Someone who has competed at the highest level, felt the pressure of big tournament moments, and looked across the net at the kind of talent that most people only ever watch from their couches. And she chose this moment, after one of the most telling matches of her career, to stand up and say what she believes with every fiber of her being. Coco Gauff is the best player on earth right now. And the tennis world has not been the same since. Let us go back to where this all started. Alex Eala had just walked off the court after facing Coco Gauff in competition. And look, losing to Coco at this stage is not something to be ashamed of. Coco is operating at a level that very few players on the entire WTA Tour can match on any given day. But what made this moment different was not the loss. It was what happened right after it. Because Eala did not retreat. She did not give the usual polite answers about working harder and coming back stronger. She went straight to the media, stood in front of the cameras, and she spoke from a place that was completely unfiltered and completely real. She acknowledged it openly. There is a massive gap, she said. A gap between where she currently stands as a player and the level that Coco Gauff operates at every single day. She said it plainly. She said it with conviction. And she said it without any hesitation.
Thank you guys for all the support. Super happy to be playing with Alex, and hope you guys can keep supporting us. And we don't like Team Coachella, so pick a new name.
Okay, so another name maybe. Another name. Okay. Bye.
Whatsoever. Coco is miles ahead. Those were not empty words meant to make a headline. Those were the words of someone who had just experienced firsthand what it feels like to go up against the very best, and walked away with a completely different understanding of what greatness actually looks like up close. But here is where the story gets even bigger. Because Eala did not stop there. She took it to a whole new level. Standing before those cameras, she declared something that made everyone in that room stop and pay attention. She said that facing Coco Gauff is not just a tough match. It is not just another entry on her schedule. She said it is the single biggest opportunity of her entire career. Think about what that means. Most players who take a loss like this talk about what they need to fix. They talk about their serve or their movement or their tactics. They make it about themselves. But Eala completely flipped the script. She looked at this loss and called it a gift. She described the chance to compete against Coco as something that athletes in this sport would do absolutely anything to get. A dream come true. Her words, not ours. And when you hear a fellow professional athlete speak that way about another player, you cannot just scroll past it. You have to stop. You have to recognize what is actually being said. Because what Eala is really communicating is that Coco Gauff has reached a place in this.
Hi, it's Alex and Coco here. Thank you so much for all the support that you've been giving us this week. And hopefully in our next match, a lot of you will come out and watch.
Sport where competing against her is not just a challenge. It is an experience. It is something that changes you as a player, as a competitor, as a person. And that is not the kind of thing that gets said about just anyone. That is the kind of language reserved for the truly special ones. And right now, Coco Gauff is in a category that very few players in the history of women's tennis have ever occupied. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, this sounds like two players being respectful of each other after a match. And yes, that respect is absolutely real and absolutely genuine. But here is the thing. Eala was very careful to make clear that this goes beyond professional courtesy. She is not just saying Coco is great. She is making a statement about who the best player in the world truly is. She is drawing a line in the sand, and on one side of that line is Coco Gauff and on the other side is everyone else, including Aryna Sabalenka, the woman who has been sitting at the top of the world rankings and collecting Grand Slam trophies like they belong to her, and it is not hard to understand why Eala feels this way once you know the full story. Because this is not just about one match. This is about what Eala saw, felt, and experienced when she got close enough to Coco to really understand what separates her from the rest. When you spend time around Coco Gauff, when you compete against her and watch her work, you start to see things that the average fan watching from home simply cannot pick up on. You see the relentless preparation. You see the tactical intelligence that goes into every single shot. You see someone who is not just talented but obsessively, almost frighteningly committed to being the best, and here is the detail that really hit differently. At the Australian Open, Coco was not just focused on her own game. She was there.
She's an octopus, she doesn't it gets every ball. She's always there. She doesn't give up. Big serve, Sometimes it's a bit annoying when someone is serving well. She can go anywhere to get any ball. I mean, she
there for Eala too. She stepped into the role of mentor without being asked. She was right there alongside Eala, offering tips, breaking down technical details, sharing the kind of insights that only come from years of competing at the absolute pinnacle of this sport. She walked Eala through the mechanics of the serve. She explained the tiny adjustments that separate a good serve from an elite one, the kind of nuances that most veterans keep to themselves. And Coco just gave them away freely because that is the kind of person she is. Think about what that says about her character. Here is one of the most dominant players on the planet, someone who is fighting for titles and rankings every single week, taking time to genuinely invest in a younger competitor's development. That is not just greatness on the court. That is leadership. That is the mark of someone who understands that their legacy is about more than trophies. And according to Eala, that combination of brilliance and generosity is what makes Coco Gauff not just the best player in the game right now, but the best in every way that truly matters. But if you thought Alex Eala's words were powerful, wait until you hear what Ons Jabeur had to say. Because the story does not end with Eala. Not even close. Ons Jabeur, a woman who has competed in multiple Grand Slam finals, who has gone toe-to-toe with every elite player you can name, who has earned her place among the most respected competitors in women's tennis, came out and said something that sent shockwaves through the entire tennis community. She looked straight at the world and declared that Coco Gauff is the most difficult
corner that she hates.
Yeah,
She'll
you
get
break her
super
rhythm.
frustrated.
Yeah.
And if she's very fast and doesn't let me do my shots, that's very frustrating to me.
Ons, with you, I feel like when you played her, you really were able to take over her speed very well. I feel like the more you played her, the better you got in control of, even when she was dominant.
Opponent she has ever faced in her entire career on the WTA Tour. Not one of the most difficult. Not up there with the best. The most difficult. Period. Full stop. Let that land for a moment. Because Jabeur has played against Sabalenka. She has played against Iga Swiatek. She has battled through Grand Slam draws filled with the most dangerous players in the world. And after all of that, the one name that stands alone at the top of her list is Coco Gauff. That is extraordinary. And when someone with that kind of resume makes that kind of declaration, you listen. And then Jabeur went even further. She delivered a tactical breakdown that nobody was expecting, and she did not pull any punches. She made a direct comparison between Coco and Sabalenka, and the verdict was clear. When it comes to movement on the court, Sabalenka does not match Coco's level. And Jabeur went one step further by exposing what she sees as a genuine exploitable weakness in Sabalenka's game. Make her run. Force her to chase every ball into every corner of the court, and cracks start to appear. The frustration becomes visible. The racket comes down hard. The emotions bubble up to the surface in ways that a smart opponent can absolutely use against her. We have all seen those moments from Sabalenka. The emotional outbursts, the visible irritation when things stop going her way. Jabeur is saying this is not just a personality quirk. It is a tactical opening. And nobody exploits it more effectively or more ruthlessly than Coco Gauff. Compare that to what Jabeur said about Coco's work output. She described it as simply unmatched. Coco covers the court the way very few players in the entire history of this sport have ever done. She tracks down balls that have no right being retrieved. She turns moments of pure defense into explosive offense in the blink of an eye. And she does it consistently, relentlessly, without ever letting you feel like you have broken through. When someone like Jabeur says that out loud and publicly, it carries the kind of weight that cannot be dismissed or explained away, and all of this is making one person deeply, visibly uncomfortable. Aryna Sabalenka. Because think about what she is watching unfold right now. She is sitting at the top of the world rankings. She has been one of the most dominant forces in Grand Slam tennis. And the players who share the tour with her, who face her every week, are coming out one by one and saying that Coco Gauff is operating at a higher level. That has to get under her skin. And given everything we know about how Sabalenka handles adversity and frustration, this is a situation that is only going to get louder and more intense as the season moves forward. Now, yes, there are people who will point out that Coco is still chasing that next Grand Slam title, that the major trophies have not been coming at the rate her talent suggests they should. And that is a fair conversation to have. But here is what cannot be argued with. The players who step onto that court with her every single week are not waiting for the trophies to make up their minds. They have already seen enough. The skill is there. The movement is there. The mental strength is there. The leadership is there. Everything points to the same undeniable conclusion. Alex Eala was the one brave enough to say it first. Ons Jabeur backed it up with facts and fire. And now the entire tennis world is paying attention. The era of Coco Gauff is not on the horizon. It is not approaching. It is not building. It is already here. It is happening right now. And whether you are ready for it or not, the voices are only going to keep getting louder.